Hey everyone, welcome back. Do you have a dryer that looks like this that is not heating at all? Well, in today's video I'm going to be showing you how to troubleshoot, diagnose, and ultimately replace the heating element. Now this should apply to most dryers, however this one, because of its age, it still has that little panel down there which makes diagnosing easier. So the first thing I did was I went ahead and started it up. I went ahead and did the little temperature test because there is a big difference between not heating and not drying, where it's heating but it's not drying. So in this case, no heat whatsoever. So the first thing you want to do is safety first, unplug the dryer. Then on this specific dryer, it has this little access panel, kick panel, whatever you want to call it down here. Just a few 1/4 inch screws, get that off. I actually ended up dropping a screw there, so I kind of had to dig through there. The little towel's there, but I found it. Alright, so that there that I'm touching, that is the heating element assembly. And on this specific dryer, you're going to see that we're able to access pretty much everything we need as far as troubleshooting it. Alright, so I did jump the gun a little bit there. It's always best practice to check the line voltage, make sure that you have the proper voltage coming out of the wall. So what I'm doing here is I'm taking off the little access panel so I can access the terminal block. That way I can check to make sure that we even have 240. So what I do is I go L1 to neutral, I check for 120, okay. Then I do L2 to neutral, check for 120, okay. And then I go between L1 and L2 to make sure I have 240. Because believe it or not, oftentimes when a dryer is spinning but not heating, it doesn't have 240 coming out of the wall. So you can see right there it's got over 240. So now we know we have proper voltage at the wall, and now we can continue back down below to check the heating element. Alright, so now I'm back down here. I went ahead and disconnected one of the leads off that heating element, and what I'm doing now is I'm checking continuity. So you could check ohms, you could ohm it out, or you could check continuity with the beep. I went ahead and put it on continuity, and it is open, so the heating element is bad. Now what I'm doing is I'm checking, I plug the dryer back in, and now I'm checking to see if we have both legs going to the dryer. So we have 120 on one lead, 120 on the other lead, 240 lead to lead. However, yep, see I pointed at the heating element. However, I did not have 240 going across the element. So pretty common with these dryers. The elements do go out after several years. You know, I actually believe this is the original heating element. So what you're going to want to do is, this is not like some of the other dryers where you can just slide out the heating element. With this dryer, you're actually going to have to take it all apart. So the first thing you do is you take the top off. There's 2 to 3 screws in the back of the top. Then you just slide back on the lid and lift up. Then you lift it off. You're going to want to disconnect all these connectors. There's not too many. I believe there's 3 or 4 of them. It's going to depend on the dryer. But yeah, disconnect those dryers. I find those little Harbor Freight pick tools help a lot. I like to kind of wedge them in and pry them out. Then you're going to have a couple of 1/4 inch bit screws. Alright, so after you've gotten all those 1/4 inch bit screws out, you're going to actually have to pop this trim off. It's really simple, it just pops off, but it is kind of weird. It goes around the door. You just slowly work your way around it, popping the clips. I have found quite typically that some of them will break because it's just a metal clip that's into plastic, and if the plastic's 20 years old, sometimes it breaks. So next, you're just going to lift it off, and then you're going to get some more of these 1/4 inch bit screws and take this connector off for the auto dry sensor. Also, it does have some hidden screws, so you guys have to be aware of that. I know that kind of threw me through a little bit of a loop the first couple times I took it apart. There's one of those metal clips I was telling you about. Unfortunately, it popped off. You could try to super glue those back possibly, but yeah, they don't really hold. Now this front part is pretty heavy, and the way that this specific one, each dryer is different, but this specific dryer, it doesn't just come off from that one connector. You actually have to do a little bit extra work here. You have to take off the ground and take off some spade connectors from one of the thermostats. And then this top part where the PCB is on this metal shielding, you gotta find a way to keep it up elevated out of your way, because we're gonna have to lift that drum up and out. So this one I had enough slack to flip it over. Sometimes you don't. Oh, I got a treat for you guys. Check this out. Alright. We got the dryer cam going on. I thought you guys would like this. This is how it looks when you're actually taking the belt off. You have to pull the idler pulley towards the motor side of the wall, take the tension off the belt, and then slip it off of the motor. Then when you're taking the drum out, it's good to hold that slack, pull up on the dryer belt, and then fold it over like I'm doing there. That helps a lot so it doesn't get snagged on the idler pulley or on the motor. And with this specific dryer, it doesn't have cutouts on the side like some other ones, so you actually have to spread open the cabinet to give enough clearance to get the drum out. Wow, look at that. Can you guys see that? Guess what that is? Let me know down below what you think that is. Wow. That's one of the rare occurrences I've seen that. That's actually a credit card. That is a plastic credit card that has gotten so hot that it's burnt and singed and melted. This is a slight dryer fire going on here, or a hazard I should say. You could see a minute ago on top of the heating element, you see all that right there I'm grabbing. There was actually more, but I already grabbed it. It was lint that had built up that started to singe. So that's why I believe the fire department says it's good to have your vent and your dryer cleaned roughly once a year or so. Dryer fires are one of the top leading causes of house fires. So anyway, I'm just grabbing some handfuls of the lint there, trying not to clog up my vacuum. And luckily this customer had a little lint bucket, so I just went ahead and got as many handfuls as I could. And now I'm about to plug in the vacuum. I know, look at that. Look at that craziness there. I'm trying to find out where to plug this thing in, and finally I decide, alright, I'll go back behind the dryer. A little pro tip there. You see I got that little Night Eyes pipe cleaner type thing there. I have it on my extension cord, so that way, for that exact situation, when I disconnect the cable, I can wrap it around it, and then that way I don't lose it. It doesn't fall behind, making the job harder. So I'm going ahead and doing a service on this dryer, vacuuming it all up, reducing the fire hazard risk, cleaning it up all nice. Just be gentle if you guys are doing this. You don't want to knock any of those wires or break anything. And you guys will probably see in some of my other videos, I do different levels of services on these dryers depending on what the customer wants, what they need, what they want to pay for. Alright, so now what I'm doing is I'm disconnecting some of these high limit thermostats and other sensors here, because essentially the heating element is sandwiched in between that heat shield. So you have to take all the sensors off, and you have to take out about, I think, 6 to 8 screws or so. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. Was it just 4? Okay, I guess it was. And then yeah, you pop the top off, You kind of have to shimmy it a little bit, wiggle it around. You can see right there, prime example, it is broken. I mean, that thing is heated up. That's what they do. They expand, they contract, and then eventually the metal just breaks. You could see a bunch more little bits of singed, burnt particles behind the heating element. So I went ahead and vacuumed those out. Now you just line up the new one. You want to line it up with those holes. There's actually quite a bit of guiding pins and holes and everything, which it's not too bad. Some guys don't like to do that, but I don't mind. It's really not that bad. So you just line it up, line up all the screw holes, and then screw them all down. Like I was saying earlier, so essentially with a lot of these dryers, some of the older ones, they have a heating element where you can just slide it out without taking the whole dryer apart. Okay, so here's one of those parts I was talking about a little bit. So that one didn't quite want to line up, so I had to bend the metal slightly. Alright, now I'm putting these sensors back on. It does help to take a picture, however, it's almost foolproof the way that the wires go. They kind of line up, and also I've done this, many times, so I already knew which way the wires went. But I always do suggest, hey, why not take a picture? Sometimes I take it. Alright, and then that front there is kind of like a heat shield, so I bent that back up. Now I'm checking all the rollers, making sure that they're not seized. And I'm going to go ahead and put the drum back in. Like I was saying before, it's good to lift up on the belt and then keep the slack. Alright, so here's another great part. I thought you guys would like this. Let me know down below if you guys appreciate this. So what I did was I put my camera inside. I wanted to show you guys how to put the belt on, because I know for me when I first started it was kind of difficult. So you use the one hand to push the idler pulley, take tension off of it. Then you use the other hand to wrap it around. And as you can see there, I manually rotate the drum to make sure that it's all spinning correctly. Yeah, let me know down below if you guys like that. I've been trying to incorporate more of that hidden camera viewpoints, because there's no way really for you guys to see that unless I put the camera down in there. Alright. Oh yeah, so that part right there where I spun the drum by hand, sometimes to get the drum to sit and get seated right on those rollers in the front, you actually have to spin the drum by hand so that way the drum rolls onto the rollers. And this is essentially the same process in reverse. You just want to go ahead and put all those screws back in, make sure all the connectors are connected. I went ahead and used my right angle on this ground. Made it a little bit easier. Oh yeah, pro tip, make sure you get that moisture sensor plugged back in, because if you don't, the dryer on auto is only going to run for about 5 minutes and then it's going to shut off because it's not detecting any moisture. Yep, that one right there. I've done that, well, not so much anymore, but back in the past I've done that many times when I first started. So here there's kind of a lip and a channel you have to slide that down onto for the UI. It can be a little tricky your first time, however it gets easier. And then for this trim, there's some metal clips. Yeah, that's a good viewpoint there. You just pop them in, they line up with the hole. You might have to jiggle it around a little bit, get them to line up, but they just pop right in. You know what? Hey, let me know down below. Do you guys like the sped up footage? Or do you guys have any comments or anything like that? Because at least for me, this video was probably, I don't know, 40 minutes long. real time. So what I went ahead and did, and what I've been doing in some of my videos, is speeding them up, the parts where I feel like you guys could get the same information just quicker if you watch the sped up video. Also, you know what, a pro tip on YouTube nowadays, you can actually, if you go over to the settings or one of the little icons, you can change how fast it's playing. So if this is too fast for you, go ahead, hit that button and put it down to 50% or 25% or whatever percentage you need. Alright, so I just went ahead and cleaned up that little kick panel there. It had a nice layer of dust and lint on it. Connected all the connectors. I'm screwing that panel in. So with that panel, you do have to lift it up. You see one of my hands is lifting it up while the other one screws it in, because if you don't, the holes don't line up. So a little pro tip there. Can be a little bit frustrating if you've never done it before. I just go ahead and check down in that lint filter, make sure there's nothing in there, no more credit cards. Yep, and here's that little pro tip I was telling you where I wrapped around the cord and it was on the ground, but then I was able to lift it back up. Yep, just screw those screws back in and we're good to go. Alright, hey you guys, I appreciate you. I appreciate all the subscribers. Thank you so much. You know what? We just hit 100 subscribers the other day, and I want to thank each and every one of you. Thank you so much. If you did like this, go ahead and subscribe, like, comment, whatever you want to do. Hope this helped. Alright, see you in the next one. Later.